Right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tribe Talk on Friday evening. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Cliff.
My name's Thomas.
And we've a very special guest tonight. Absolutely fantastic to have our good friend on the show. How are you, Sheena?
Fine. Overcome with nerves now. I've gone bright red.
You will be absolutely fine. So I'm just going to read your bio here, Sheena, and then we'll get into the conversation and talking to you. So for those of you who don't know Sheena, she was vegetarian at age 14 in 1983. She was involved with the anarchist book collective Just Books from 1984 to 1986, and she was one of the founder members of Giro's, a vegetarian/vegan café in Belfast from 1986 to 1996. She has been involved in the animal rights movement and hunt sabbing since the late 1980s, and in 2013 she set up her own vegan business, Truffleupagus Vegan Yums. And she has been involved with vegan activism again since 2017. So, Sheena, I think Thomas described you this week as a Wonder Woman.
Oh,
it's true.
I think that's
the 2017 activism has been with you guys, so it's been brilliant doing it with you two. You know, that's sort of
awesome.
Inspired me on to keep going, you know.
Yeah, and 3 years has flown past, and it's epic of you to come on tonight and spend some time with us. And we've had some people that we don't know so well, but it's nice to be able to chat to somebody that we know really well and somebody that we love.
Aww.
I was just thinking, well, I was just saying to Sheena backstage, like, we have done activism and we've known each other for years, but there's some stuff here that I'm not too familiar on, and it'll be really good for me personally, I'm sure for everybody listening.
Well, I suppose a lot of the stuff. Yeah, a lot of the stuff would have been happening before you were born. So
Thanks, Sheena.
You're younger than my son.
So yeah, I'm just really interested in hearing more of your story and learning about you more.
Yep.
I thought Sheena was talking to me there. I'm got it.
Age is just
you not describe yourself in your late 50s in the last video, Cliff?
Mid. Go for mid. We're not going for the late 50s just yet. Fighting hard.
So let's get cracking anyway. The first question, tell us a little bit about your past, being a young rebel with a cause, and how you came to be vegetarian, and what it was like for you making that change as a young teenager.
Oh, well, you were definitely out on a limb. There was definitely not any sort of, tribe, I suppose, for want of a better word. I was lucky because I have a twin sister, and we were both pretty much on the same page, and she's a lot quieter than me. And we started off by doing like a punk fanzine, which would have just been really interviews with bands, and we would have maybe got some punk records and reviewed them. But as we got a wee bit older and our opinions started to develop as, young teenagers, the way they do, we would have got involved. I would have been involved in the debating society in school. And the very first debate I did in school was on animal rights.
Wow.
I can't remember what age I was then, but it was about animal rights. And
what year was that?
I suppose it would have been about 1982 or 3. But
wow,
I remember somebody coming up to me at the end and going, "Nice leather shoes, Sheena," and it was like, my speech was really good, and someone just you get it still now, people picking out the things you're not doing, but and then me and my sister went on. Yeah, I know. And my sister and I then went on to do a wee magazine called Anxious, which we would have. I mean, there was no internet then, and all of our correspondence with people and other like-minded people would have been by letter. So Julia and I would have got maybe 20, 30 letters a week. And we would have reused the stamps by sellotaping over them or putting soap over them. so that you could reuse the stamp and you didn't have to pay to correspond with people. And we'd be writing to people from all around the UK. And there was one guy I was writing to called Jake, and we just would have like 6 and 7 pages of, talk about changing the world and animals and feminism and gay rights and and at that age you just think everything's possible. And we got involved with the animal rights movement. They did a big march, and we actually met in, what do you call that place? Maysfield Leisure Centre, for a meeting with the animal rights movement on the same day that there was the big fire in Maysfield, where I think 6 people died. And we were actually all evacuated from the building while the fire had happened.
The day of the march?
It was a meeting to talk about the march, and there was a huge fire in the Badminton area, and lots of people, I think 6 people died, and we were all evacuated. So we were actually at the animal rights meeting, and then we went on a march, and we met. I have a feeling I met Beth Bell at that. I can't remember whether it was her.
Yeah, shout out to Beth.
And so we sort of got into it very gently. There was no internet, and there wasn't really a big crowd of people. And then when we were about 14, maybe 15, round about that age, I seen a song called "Meat is Murder" by Conflict. And I think there was a photograph from the Peter Singer book, possibly, of an upside down cow. And now remember, there wouldn't have been fantastic quality images. It was a photocopied image that was printed on that sort of double duplicate type of paper.
No internet back in those days, Sheena.
No, and it was a really grainy black and white photo of a
That's
cow
from Animal
upside down.
Liberation, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
I'm still
from
reading that, so I know the pictures you're talking about.
But it would have been photocopied from that book and then printed into a fanzine. And I remember seeing it, and that was it. That was it. Went to my mum and said, I don't want to eat meat. And she just says, well, I'm not cooking your dinner for you anymore. You have to cook yourself. So I remember thinking, yay, because my mum couldn't even boil potatoes half the time. She wasn't the best cook, bless her. And, I know. So
look what you're doing.
I had to learn how to cook, and that was where I started to fall in love with the alternatives of, at that point, vegetarian.
Born out of rebellion.
Yeah, so that was basically, and then I think my sister went vegetarian about 3 months later, and Mum said Julia didn't eat vegetables at all, so Mum was like really despairing. But Julia then decided, I think because animals were so important and it was so vital to not be eating them, that she decided she'd better up her game and eat vegetables. So,
Can't imagine being a vegan and not eating vegetables.
I know.
They're literally essential to live.
When you, I think there was a time when you could survive on pot noodles and ruffle bars as a vegan, in the late 80s.
It was back in those days, it was seen to be such an extreme position to even, vegetarian was even like out there way back in the day, but to be vegan in those days was almost seen as absolutely extreme.
Well, I didn't go vegan until I was 19, and by that stage we had set up Giro's, which was a sort of youth centre for young people. It was nothing. I mean, Cliff, you'll probably remember this. It was nothing for young people really, and people were advised to get out of the city.
I can remember the city with the blockades and the police checks.
To find work. There was no prospects, and it was very difficult. So we decided to create a space for young people that they could listen to bands. My sister was very heavily involved in getting the bands over. And with them came information that maybe we didn't have in Belfast. So there was, punk bands called Reality Control and Crass and stuff like that would come over, and they would share things like veganism, and we thought they were very sophisticated and
it's like a big melting pot.
I think we have a picture of the young anarchist here.
Awesome.
I would have been around that time, Sheena, yeah?
No, actually, that was the early 90s. Yeah, that was, I think it was about 93, yeah.
I was 1 year old.
Yeah. That was about 5 or 6 years after we had started Giro's. And so I think after about a couple of years of being vegetarian, everybody was starting to move towards veganism. And
what year would that have been then?
That was 89.
89 people were starting to
89.
go vegan in the local Belfast scene. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, everybody in Giro's would have been, that worked there cooking would have been vegan for a period of time. And
It's amazing.
I remember making some very interesting meals, but you know, the nutmeg was open. It was there.
Wow, it was there then.
It was beans and things on Botanic, which actually was, and then there was sassafras, which was on Great Victoria Street. And then there was the nutmeg in town. So there was a lot of health food shops. And so we would go around and get our soya milk and sauce mix and all that. And
that's the one I was talking to Juliet about last week, the mix of stuff that came in. Yeah. And it was pretty tasteless, horrible stuff. I think you just put water in it and mixed up a few things and hope for the best. Yeah.
We would have made burgers. We would have made burgers in Giro's and taken them out to punk gigs. There used to be a lot of punk gigs, alcohol-free punk gigs in the art college. And we'd bring a little 2-ring stove and fry up about 80 burgers. And you just stand at the back of the gig and shout for like Johnny or Timmy or whatever, come and get your burger. They'd run over and pay their 80p and run away with a vegan burger.
Wow.
You know, so.
Like that's way back in the day. That kind of ties in, Sheena, to our next question about back in the day. So we wanted to know what it was like being a parent back in those days when information about nutrition and diet, vegan diet, probably were barely acknowledged.
Yeah.
You know, the principles that you live by. And I remember you telling me something about a doctor strongly advising you that you couldn't be a vegan parent. Could you tell us about that?
They said that there was a doctor told me that my son would have no spine if I know, and I mean I was only 21, so I was absolutely terrified. And I remember, I think it was the second scan, and I remember seeing his spine and just being so relieved that he was okay. I know, but I think because around about that time, then there was sort of like a shift then towards people getting back to nature and living on the land and growing all their vegetables. And we had set up, my partner at the time, my son's dad, we'd set up like a place near Ballycastle. There was like an organic farm with loads of families living on, and we're growing vegetables and living off the land sort of thing. And I think...
Did you have a name for that?
It was called Fleskwater. Well, it still is called Fleskwater. It's still there. It's called Fleskwater. F-L-E-S-K. Yeah, it's still there. One of my best friends still lives up there.
One of the original people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's so badass.
Like everybody lived in like teepees and caravans and all for years, and then gradually started to get a wee bit more home comforts, you know.
I think the way things are going, and we're going to end up there again.
Everything goes in cycles.
And we actually had a rescued goat as well, who had a little baby goat, and she was able to feed off her mummy. You know.
What was the story? How did the goat come to be rescued?
I think just, I don't know who it was come up with the idea, but I think it was possibly, well, one of the people living there maybe just heard about a goat or something, and but they did milk the goat. And then the wee baby had the milk as well, and then people milked extra for themselves. If that makes sense. Not going to get into the
sort of
breastfeeding.
Doesn't.
But the baby was feeding, and then they would stimulate more for themselves.
I'm assuming that was probably just down to somewhat of an argument for necessity and lack of proper information.
Yeah, well, I don't think the people that were doing that then were vegan, so there was
okay.
And the farm was happening. There was people had moved over from England, and there was a lot of different families. It wasn't just the Giro's people, you know.
Yeah.
So
wow.
So
do you remember the goat's name?
It was hard, and I remember worrying that my son wouldn't get the proper nutrition. And I actually couldn't remember the name of the book that I used to follow, but I actually Googled it tonight, and it was actually written by Michael Clapper, which I didn't know.
No way.
It's called, I have it written down here, it's called
Dairy Guy.
Pregnancy, Children and the Vegan Diet. And there was a whole section on it about the Phoenix family, which is Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix and River, and
they were all vegan, and she had put in a load of recipes, and I used to follow them religiously when I was bringing up my son. But
must have been hard back in those days because, I mean, you don't have access to the internet or anything. So when a GP tells you your child's going to be born without a spine because you're not consuming dairy, I mean, that's like proper, based on nothing and fear-mongering as well, actually scaring people into...
Well, I think probably because they don't, they're not, doctors aren't, versed
nutritionists
in any way, even now. I'm sure people some doctors are still saying that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was enough to put me off, and then I think and I can see it happening with a lot of people who maybe, once you do sort of get out of that way of sort of being a wee bit radical, maybe for want of a better word, and you want the quiet life and you're bringing up children and all that, then you naturally sort of focus on that more than activism and
the social norms.
So I did go back to being vegetarian, and it was only 8 years ago that I went back to being vegan, and
what was it?
Never go back now. I actually think it was just a general shift. I don't remember a particular moment. I just think I think there probably was a lot of, input on social media, and didn't Earthlings come out maybe around about then?
Yeah, I think that's...
It was there. I'm not sure exactly when Earthlings came out, but it was around in those times because I seen it back then too.
Yeah, I think it was just a big wave of reminders that, dairy is also cruel and dairy is also brutal. And in fact, dairy is sometimes even, well, I don't know why you can...
Arguably worse.
Or it is worse sometimes, and and you get these constant reminders when you're on social media, and it reminded me of why I had been vegan and also why I had been vegetarian. But you do think that being vegetarian is enough for such a long time, and
I thought back in the day the same, Sheena. I've loved animals my entire life, and I was literally clueless to the dairy industry. I just didn't. I hadn't taken the time to find out, probably, and that's on me.
Yeah.
But I just presumed, like everybody else, that I thought cows produced milk. I didn't realize it was mothers produced milk, if that makes sense.
I know. And I think as well, like, because we had seen the goats and that whole, idealized situation of the little holistic. The little goat who was still feeding from the mummy, but yet there was this extra milk. But, I was a breastfeeding mum, so I knew that's, I was actually at one point considering training to be a breastfeeding counsellor. So I knew that milk didn't just appear miraculously. It had to be manipulated and all that. So even then, it didn't really connect that, that
social conditioning
removed. Yeah,
you have to remember there's literally like billions of pounds spent every year on pushing this stuff on us. So can't be too hard on ourselves for not connecting those dots.
Yeah, I know. But we still would have, been doing, marches and demos, and we would have gone down to Dublin every now and again for marches or demonstrations. And, so, and then the hunt sabbing as well. There was a hunt sab group in Giro's, and we had this rusty old van, and we just used to chase the hunt all around the countryside. Wow. And we had the horns. I could never blow through the horn, but we had the horns to distract. Well, it distracted the dogs, so they would come running to us, and then they would get confused and they would run away from where the fox was. And then we had what I was telling you about, Thomas, was the in the cafe that we had. Thank goodness health and safety didn't come in. We had a big jar of urine, and it wasn't just one person's urine. Lots of people would use it.
No way.
And
you need to tell us why.
We put vinegar in it and cigarette butts. And then
I get you now.
When we were hunt sabbing, and throw it everywhere so that the hounds would lose the scent of the fox.
Wow, that's pretty radical.
You see, when you were sabbing, Sheena, were you met with much resistance and aggression from the huntsmen themselves?
Looks like pretty scary.
We were in a van. We weren't, like, I went hunt sabbing a couple of years ago, and we were on foot, and personally I just thought that it was a bit of a waste of time, because no matter how fit you are, you can't keep up with people on horseback.
Or packs of dogs.
No, and I found all of a sudden you'd be running and you'd get separated from, there was maybe 12 of us, this is like recently, and you'd get separated, and all of a sudden you'd be surrounded by 3 or 4 huntsmen, women in a field on your own. Terrifying, So the van,
you're scared of horses, if I remember rightly.
I am, yeah.
You're a brave lady.
In the van, it was better because you could get a better sort of bird's eye view of the hunt as a whole, running across the fields, and then we would be hanging out the windows, blowing the horns and creating a lot of noise and a lot of racket and all that. So, I don't know what the laws were for hunting then. Maybe there was only certain land that we're able to go on, but it was definitely better to be in a vehicle.
Yeah.
There's part of me that feels now with hunt sabbing, because it confuses the dogs so much. I'm concerned about the dogs, and confusing them and them going off. Because I don't know, if I didn't know this until the last time I went out, that if the dogs don't return in a certain time, then they get put down because they're useless.
I actually had a discussion / argument with one of the hunts guys at the hunt protest that we've been at, Crawfordsburn, isn't it? And I said to him, like, I'm not just here for the fox, I'm here for the horses too, and I'm also here for the dogs. So they matter just as much too. The dogs have an absolutely horrible life, and the horses running around fields getting injured with people that are 15, 16, 17 stone sitting on their back.
I know. Well, one of the guys that the last time I was out, he was pulling his horse through briars and all sorts, and the horse, was getting cut, and it's just the whole thing is just horrendous.
The whole thing is just horrific, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it was good. It was a good experience, and obviously great camaraderie, and met a lot of really great people out doing that. And you have to be there for each other, and you have to. I just think you can't sit back and do nothing. I think you have to get out and do something, even if it is just standing with on a picket line or something.
Yeah.
Important. It's important to not ignore. I think it's important to not just be vegan and make it just about your food and what you're eating.
Yeah, totally.
You have to make it about, well, obviously for you guys as well, but about the animals,
and inform others.
Yeah, big part of it, education. We've kind of talked about this, but just the scene, the activism scene then in the 80s, would it have been something like you would have been organised? I know you're talking about gigs and things. Would it have been like every weekend, every month?
Yeah, like looking back,
the type of activism?
Yeah, it seemed to be. We were when we were in Just Books, the anarchist bookshop or whatever, we were all getting to know each other, and everybody was really fired up to change the world. And our priority was to get a space for young people. And don't forget, in that time in Belfast, Catholics and Protestants didn't really, mingle in bars. There was like bars in certain, there was like a bar in a certain area, and nobody really identified as one or the other. But once you went into Giro's, you were never asked where are you from. It just wasn't relevant. But our type of activism would have been direct action. And I remember in the fanzines and stuff that we would have got, there was, depending on which fanzines there would have been a lot of direct action tips. So things like, telling you how to go out and glue locks, and how to, obviously, like, go and do a bit of rescue work as well. I think there was even one that told you how to make a bomb, but I didn't do that. But there was one, I think probably the most direct thing I ever did was, I was there one night when we helped rescue a dog out of someone's house who was not looking after their dog, and then also my favorite one was breaking the stink bomb into the Jaffa Furs shop.
Told me about that. Yeah,
and running out screaming like but again, those sort of things, in those days you would have just got called a troublemaker or criminal damage and all that sort of stuff, rather than, maybe not the point of what you're trying to do, getting out.
Yeah.
But we would have been, I suppose we would have been as organised as can be when you're that young, really,
wild and free.
Yeah. We did achieve quite a bit, I think.
Awesome. I just think
it's awesome what you've done, Sheena, and
Mhm.
what you've been doing over the years. Like, you started way ahead of everybody else, and it's really amazing. I mean, I was vegetarian. My story is similar to yours, but I didn't do any activism at all when I was young. I just thought, yeah, I'm vegetarian and I'm cool with animals now, so that's all I need to do.
I
And it's
know.
only later in life that I realised I had to actually get off my ass and do something. So
I think
you've been doing it
it's
so
good.
long, it's amazing.
I do think that's a good story though, Cliff, because I think that, a lot of people, maybe when they do, like if you started activism 8 years ago, in your, late 30s.
Very late 30s.
We got that right.
2019.
Whatever age, it's, I know when Sean talks about, the fact that he used to hunt and shoot and fish, you can see like, he always sort of says that story to large blokes, and you can see their eyes going, all right, so just because you do it now doesn't mean you have to do it forever.
Yeah.
So even if people aren't active now, it doesn't mean you can't start now.
Yeah.
You can, we can still, I think a lot of people are going to be concerned about their own freedoms being taken away. So let's now sort of say to people, okay, well, you're concerned about your own freedoms. So what about the freedoms of animals? Let's be concerned about them as well.
Yeah. Just before I ask you the next question, I don't normally do this. There's somebody in the comments defending fox hunting. I'm not sure who it is, but I just want to set it straight before we go any further. Are you okay with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the foxes are killed for a reason. Well, he's going to say that the reason they're killed is because they kill somebody's chickens. But for anybody watching who thinks that's a valid comment, I mean, foxes are only trying to feed themselves the same as all other animals do. And the reason they kill chickens is because farmers keep them in close confinement, thousands and thousands of them in one barn. So the fox in nature would not do that. And you cannot blame the fox for trying to feed itself, but you can blame the farmers for keeping the chickens in horrible shit, close confinement. That's who's to blame for foxes killing, not the fox.
I'm just seeing the comments.
I think it's interesting that that there's almost a justification of why we kill animals because they're seen as a pest. And I think we'll have to remember that, that's just us putting that label on them to justify what we're doing. Yeah. And it could be rats, it could be pigeons, it could be foxes. But don't forget, in different societies, people have called other human beings pests or scum or whatever, and have justified, or they smell, and that's why they justify attacking other races or other individuals. So I think that we have to be careful of trying to justify why we kill another sentient being that's just living its life,
And they're wild animals who are carnivores, and we steal their territory because it's as much their planet as ours. We're not masters of the universe, and we don't own the planet. So we take all their ground away from them, and then we put sheds up and keep thousands of chickens in them, and then blame a carnivorous animal who lives there in the first place for coming and eating some chickens. It's absolutely
like the fact is we are the most invasive species on this planet, the most destructive species on this planet.
We're the pest.
So sorry, guys. I just wanted to cover that.
Oh no, definitely do. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing. What was our next question now?
Let me see. So
this one here.
Well,
you want to go?
We didn't really cover how. Well, I suppose you talked about Giros and how it came about. It came about through young people, for young people, for a need to give people somewhere to go and something to do. Yeah. That's a really beautiful thing.
It was also to try and create some kind of like jobs, because we didn't have jobs, but we worked. I mean, some people were amazing at like building, and some people were amazing at art, and some people were fantastic at music. Like there was a huge music scene there, and one of the guys, Marty, he went on now. I think he is a sound engineer in colleges. And another guy, Pizzi, he would have been very prolific in bands. He's still touring with bands now. Wow. My friend Hilary that I was talking about that moved to the land, she's still living in that way and growing plants and growing vegetables. So the sort of skills that we learned in a very DIY way in Giros, a lot of people then went on, and obviously myself with the cooking, obviously went on then to create actual pretty
businesses and careers.
Pretty good businesses out of it. Another friend, Kate, she used to put on art exhibitions in Giros, and now she's some huge job in Scotland now. So we didn't learn all those things in a university or in a college.
Is Giro still active, or
no? It's not. So. It's not. It had a sort of last stint about 10 years ago. It was set up again at the back of the BBC, round about there. And then the building was bought over, and there hasn't really been, I think probably because of COVID as well, there hasn't really been anybody getting together, but it was mostly just music. I mean, I tried to get involved in the last place to do activism and animal rights and all that, and there was nobody interested. In fact, there seemed to be very few vegans. It was, a lot of, you were sort of back to 20 years ago,
Yeah, going backwards.
Mostly music. It was mostly, and also bands I'd never heard of anymore. So I lost interest in it, But
you were in there, weren't you? I was in there a few times. The food was good, and they were still doing the artwork when I was there, and it still had that kind of open-minded vibe where people were free flowing with progressive ideas. So it was cool to experience.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's a good place. I hope they get something going again, but I think it was generally moving more towards the music rather than a whole hub of activism.
Talking about activism, a different type of activism that you're also familiar with and you've got experience is fundraising. So could you tell us a bit about your fundraising experiences and the charity walk that you're doing for Heartstone Veganic Sanctuary? Because that's awesome. And
I know. Well, they're lovely. I came across them again. So power of social media, came across them, and I think I did a wee cupcake sale or something for them, and then got in touch with Nia, and we were chatting, and she was lovely, and I just thought, look, that's going to be the charity that I'm going to support from now on. So I did a couple of meals from home where I invited 10 people over and picked a wee charity each week to donate the money to. Nice. And then I just thought, well, look, I did a big, huge walk. I think it was about 8 years ago. It was 100 mile in 36 hours, but it was over 3 days. It wasn't a non-stop one. And I raised 1,500 quid for.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was actually for Giros and then another animal sanctuary. I think the one up near you, Cliff. Almost Home, was it that one, or?
Almost Home, yeah.
One of those ones anyway. I can't remember.
Sure.
And then I thought, right, I'm going to do that again, and I thought instantly of Heartstone because, it is really, I think, because we all have that dream of wanting to rescue animals. Yeah. But where do we put them? Where do we put the animals? And there's already sanctuaries there that are absolutely crying out for money and help, and those lovely girls that come to our activism, Evita and they go down and help, and I just think that that's fantastic. So I just thought, look, if I can raise a bit of money, but I think now, you really have to be doing something that's going to catch people's attention. You can't just walk around do a 5K.
I'm just showing some of the pictures of the animals from the actual sanctuary.
That's better hair than me. Big below dry hair.
So this is how the money's going to help.
Yeah, look at her. Look at that lovely colour. She's lovely. Oh, yeah. So no, the guys are great. So I had to change the date. I had a silly back injury, and I was going to be doing it next weekend. And it just put me 3 weeks behind in my training. So I've changed it to the 3rd of July, which is great because that gives me a bit more time to focus on the fitness and also raise a bit more money for them. And obviously I can take donations now, and some people have been extremely generous already. And
the PayPal link is on the
PayPal, and if anybody doesn't have a chance to write that down, then they can message me, and if they want to have any more details about what the walk is. And I'm hoping to get some people to come along. Yeah, and just the date is different. It's
it's good back. 60 miles in 30 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say it was going to be 60-24, and then I thought, right, I think it might actually take me 25 or 26 miles or 26 hours, so I better just cover myself. And it was funny because there was somebody I was telling them all about it, and they just went, "That's only 2 miles an hour," and I go,
Oh my God.
I think you should run the whole way.
I will be crawling on my hands and knees for the last 10 hours. So
it's not good enough, Sheena. You have to do 10 miles an hour at least.
I'll be doing star jumps. I'll be tumbling the whole way. So
I can't imagine telling somebody you're walking 60 miles for charity. That's not far enough.
I know.
Quicker and farther.
It's not fast enough, quicker. I know, but it's all about raising money. So if anybody is interested in walking with me for part of it, maybe doing a wee bit of a fundraise too, everything helps,
Yeah,
So,
I'm definitely going to come along and join you at some
yeah,
point.
it'd be good crack,
Yeah, for sure.
And the sanctuary are trying, am I right in saying they're trying to buy some more ground so that they can facilitate more animals? That's what the money's for.
They've got a lot of baby animals at the moment. They've just rescued 2 sheep and a lovely wee cow called Ernie. He's lovely. He was tiny and now he's massive. And yeah, so I think, they have a lot of plans for the place. And I just think it's important to, as I say, we all want to rescue animals, but the reality of it is it's a full-time job for, very dedicated people. For very dedicated people, and I think that if we can help in any way we can, then it's really important.
So please, everybody, donate to Sheena's charity walks. You're giving money directly to helping and saving animals.
Yeah. And there's no, just in case anybody is questioning, there's no admin taken out of it or anything like that. Everything goes straight to them. So I'm not taking anything for like new shoes or anything. You know what I mean? It all goes to Heartstone.
I would also just like to say that if people can't give money, you can also volunteer your time and you can go and help out. I mean, Cliff, I think we're going to go down like soon within the next few weeks and do a bit. But especially if you're not vegan, like to meet animals that you eat, it's a life-changing experience. You come face to face with them and you see that they're, you'll come across 2 pigs and they're very individual from each other. They're not the same. There's someone in there and they value their lives just like we do. And it just draws out a different type of respect. It's very easy to debate whether or not the lives of animals are worthy of moral consideration. But when you are up close and personal with them, you put your ego down and you just feel in your heart that
I think when you identify that they have, and I think it's very simplistic to say, oh, they're similar to dogs or they're similar to cats. But I think if you are an animal lover and you can identify that they have, a personality and, and you end up liking their personality or even thinking, oh, they're a wee bit of a character, and realizing that they're all different.
Each one of them's a unique individual with their own personality. That's the thing.
Yeah, I sometimes feel when I'm in school that I'm sort of fighting a bit of a losing battle with that sort of thing, because obviously I'm the only vegan at work. And, there was a little girl the other day saying, I was telling them all about the flowers and the bees coming out and we mustn't pick the flowers because they're the first source of food for the bees. And I said, and why is it important for the bees to have food? And she said, because they give us honey. And I said, well,
they give us...
It just came out of me. I went, they don't give it to us, we take it. She was like 4-year-old, and she was like really shocked. She looked really shocked, and I said, well, we don't need honey to survive. I said, it's actually for the bees. We need to just leave the bees alone,
Well said.
But it's important. I think children now don't have a lot of time in nature or with animals, other than a constant stream of pets that die, sort of thing, and they don't really have an awful lot of time to bond with animals. Whereas I think, Cliff, I know your story is that you were very attached and compassionate about animals from a very young age.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know why that is. I don't know whether it was innate within me or my dad, my mum too, but my dad especially was very soft and kind with animals, and I think I picked it up from him. So like he wasn't vegan, and I know if he was still alive, he would be now. He just didn't know any better. But we had I mean, it sounds so funny. I'd say pets because to us they were pets in those days. They were companions, really. We had hamsters and gerbils, and we rescued dogs and cats. And my dad, when he was young, he had a pet mouse he'd take to school with him in his top pocket.
No way.
So he was very attached to animals, but just had never heard the vegan message. And I know in my heart, like, he would be vegan. So yeah, I don't know whether I picked that up from him or it's just innate within me. I'm not sure. But people
I would have
spend
gone
time
out
with animals.
when I was a little girl. I would have just gone out in this loop round 2 or 3 streets that I was allowed to walk around when I was about 9, looking for all the cats in the different houses and just hanging out with them, you know. And you know, I think a lot of kids would maybe get laughed at if they did that, you know, but especially maybe boys more, but yeah, I don't think that it's, I think that children are born with that and I think they lose it. I don't think that it's something that you don't have that you learn. I think that you have it when you're born, and I think that it's kind of or beaten out of you, you know.
Yeah. I was doing a wee talk last night and that's something I said. Compassion for animals is not learned, it's something that you lose because we all have it when we're young.
I think so, yeah.
Society just like wipes that out. And you're
decides you need to toughen up. Decide you need. And I think it's very difficult for a society to be compassionate when every day there's meat on your plate, which somehow you must at some level know that a death has occurred, and you're putting all that death and hormones and anger and fear into your body on a daily basis. And I think it's really important that we teach children meditation, kindness, and all about the world around us, and that we aren't just this, as you said, master of the universe, that we are part of a very small, you know,
delicate web of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people, the only contact they ever have with a chicken, for example, is when they go into KFC and buy a chicken that's been cut into pieces. You know, they don't ever associate with an individual. So,
and the disconnect is so huge. The disconnect is so huge with chicken because it's actually still called chicken when you buy it in a meat form.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah, whereas obviously, you know, pig is pork and cow is beef. So you can sort of imagine, right, well, you know, maybe they don't realize, but it's still called chicken. So the advertising has really massively worked with that one because they're still saying, look, this is what you're eating a chicken. And it's probably one of the most commonly eaten meats, would it be?
Yeah, I think it is most consumed land
for sure.
It's bizarre. Like, I mean, people will go into the supermarket, especially this time of year, and literally pick up the chopped off leg of a dead lamb. You know, how conditioned do you have to be? Imagine if it was like the chopped off leg of a golden retriever.
I know.
People would probably call the manager.
I know. I know. That would be a good activism, you know, to have that, you know, pretend that you're selling that in the street or in a like at a pop-up shop with fake legs of
free range Labrador.
Yeah, you know, have the signs in the window. People would be appalled.
Kicking around.
I'm going to move on to the next question here.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
It's a very long one. Who wrote this question out?
I don't know.
It's a Thomas question. So
pure vodka.
we want to know about your business, Sheena, Truffleupagus Vegan Yums. So when did you decide to set that up? And how hard is it being a solo small business owner that's also catering to a growing customer base? And how successful or hard has that venture been?
Okay.
Because we know you're working like flat out all the time.
I know, hence the sore wrist here.
And you have something on tomorrow as well, so tell us about that.
I do,
as well.
yeah. I'm in Junction 1 tomorrow. There's a market between 10 and 12, so I'm there tomorrow. There's like an outside market. It's all COVID safe, all that. So yeah, I had a real passion for cooking and gyros. I just loved it, and but there was no money in gyros. We never made money. Well, I did like this wee thing called a theme night in about 1993, I think it was, and it was food from around the world, 3 courses for £5.
Wow.
And I know gyros was so cheap, and I didn't have a mobile phone then, so I would have made a poster with the menu and my home phone number on the poster and posted it around Belfast city centre. and people would have phoned me at home and made a booking to go to Giro's. And I remember getting people from as far away as Botanic Avenue phoning up. They'd seen the poster. And we'd have about maybe 20, 30 people every whatever. I think I did about 8 of them. And there was food from Ireland and Italy, Mexico, places like that. And it was very popular. And I just had a real passion for cooking. But like I say, there was no money in Giro's. So I left Giro's to train to be a fitness instructor. And I did 4 years of holistic therapies training, and with the idea to open up like a sort of vegetarian cafe, fitness center, holistic place. This was the idea. But I ended up getting sidetracked teaching drama.
As you do.
I know, and just went completely self-employed in 2000. But, you know, that was all. At the time, I was bringing up a son on my own, and I was like working 25 groups a week, and it was, you know,
Who is it?
it was hard work. But once my son hit about 18 and he was up and out, I didn't really work over the summer because I chose to sort of spend most of the summers with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was all of a sudden I had all this time. So he's 31 now. So it would have been around, I suppose it would have been around 8 years ago. I just decided to, probably around the same time that I went vegan, to take up the cooking again. And I think for a wee bit I was just doing vegetarian, and then I had a trip in Palm Springs. I think it was 2013. Wow. And there was a wee funny noise there. We went to a vegan sweet shop, and the sweets were $1.50 each.
For one sweet?
For one sweet. And
what size of sweet are we talking here?
Are we talking sweets?
Sweet,
like
a chocolate.
Sweets or
And I remember going, oh, I want a bit of that. I could make those. And obviously I've never charged $1.50, but so that was where the idea came from, to get back into the cooking, and where the name Truffleupagus came from, because I was only doing truffles. That was all I was doing at the start, was sweets.
Uh-huh.
And but then as things like vegan festivals happened and all those events and markets and stuff, and I just grew and grew and grew and grew. But it was really this year with COVID, losing all my other work, that made me realize that I could make a better go of it as a business. And I converted some space into a working kitchen and got all registered with, I was working previously from another kitchen, and it closed. So when COVID hit, I hadn't got that part of the business either. Yeah, and so I got my own space, got registered, and set up again around about June of last year. And it's been fantastic. I mean, I won a business course, and one of the questions I asked that was of interest to me was, does the word vegan put people off? And these were all non-vegan business advisors, and they said, absolutely not. Do not take that name away, because this is what you are, and this is your unique selling point. And I think as well, because I have the experience and the story and the background and all of those things, and because it's been, and because I am, not afraid to say that it's 100% vegan, it's ethical, you're guaranteed that it's made in vegan kitchens. Yeah. You're not going to get any cross-contamination with anything that's not vegan. And I think that's really important. So it's been great. It's been massively busy. I don't think I've ever worked as hard in my life, ever.
And your food's amazing. And you also do wedding catering as well. That's right.
I have 3 weddings coming up this year. We actually went to see a beautiful venue last week for friends that were, friends of a friend that I'm catering for in June. And it's going to be awesome. It's like a sort of off-grid, on the land sort of a place. It's amazing. And then there's another couple this year, and then one next year, a big huge one next year. So so it's not just it's not just truffles anymore.
Yeah. And you see, Sheena, when we go to the vegan festivals and go to the markets, on your stalls there's always a big, tall, handsome dude helping you out. Who's that guy?
Mr. Speaking Up for the Animals. Well, that's my fiance. That's Phil. He's brilliant. He has just been so supportive. It was actually his idea whenever I lost everything at the beginning of the year or last year. And I was probably sobbing and doing his head in. And he just says, why don't you convert this space? And I remember thinking he was insane. And by June, we had it all done. And it was a great idea. So, and he's brilliant. He really helps. And we also have a wee activist group called Speaking Up for the Animals, which we have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page, and we try to put up as much content as we have time for, and we'd obviously like to get back out again and do a wee bit more. We did a couple of things outside McDonald's last year. Yeah. But I think, you know yourselves with COVID, trying to get public interaction, we just have to...
we were in town today having a look around just to gauge the footfall, and it's still quite bare, but I think...
we have to rethink activism. Yeah, we have to rethink what we're doing and whether it has to be with huge public numbers, and think about, how we're getting the message out there. And there's definitely ways, to do that.
Any avenue, even if you have to talk to ice cream man.
So hi to Sean, by the way, I know you're watching, buddy.
Don't know where he's disappeared. It's vital we don't give up. I think you're right, Thomas. No. I think your ice cream thing is brilliant.
I'm not even plugging, I'm just saying any way possible, you know what I mean?
But I do think it's great. I just think it's brave. Rather, you could have just sat there and looked out the window.
I've ordered a ice cream sample anyway, so he's got no excuse.
We're not talking about ice cream fan anymore, but Thomas wants to know that bomb thing you were talking about earlier. Can you send that over to him?
I think that fanzine
called the Anarchist Cookbook.
I know. I think it is. It is in the
Right.
Anarchist Handbook, isn't it? Should I be saying that? It is in the Anarchist Handbook. I think something like that.
Oh, there you go. You can find
I've never made a bomb.
I'll say no more, but I've seen that text as well.
I've never made a bomb.
Me either.
But we're going to try. Do you want to?
Well, I don't know. Maybe if we had left that urine and ash a wee bit longer, it might have exploded.
Yeah, we'll start with that maybe. Do you want to go with the next question?
Yes, let me see. So, it's quite a big question, I guess. What changes have you seen in your lifetime regarding animal rights, and are you hopeful of a vegan future?
Oh wow, that's a good question. God, I don't know. I think I would love to say yes, but I think it's some days I would say yes. Like say the days we're at the vegan campouts, or the days we do the cubes, or the days that we're at the march. Yes, I can definitely see it. Other days when you see vegans fighting over, the most silly things, I just feel, I'm more worried about their delivery was late rather than this is vegan businesses providing you with this amazing food. I do despair sometimes. So I think we'll get closer to it. I think sadly it'll be more environmental. I think what you were saying last week, Thomas, about even farmers knowing that their time is up, but it's more environmental rather than concern for the animals. And that worries me because I think that they will constantly be looking for ways to hang on to the eating of the meat. Whereas I think that I just wish that people would connect with the animals. And it is, yes, the environment's important, of course it is, but I think there's a slight, it's not selfishness, but I think there's a slight concern for yourself, because obviously we all live in the environment. Whereas I think we have to forget about ourselves and really think truly about another species. And
of who really has it bad here.
Pardon?
I agree.
Of who really has it bad here. Like animals live a lifetime of lockdown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're never free. They're always exploited. None of them get out alive.
Humans have this great thing. Sorry, go ahead, Sheena.
I was just going to say, I'm sure you're following the story of that ship with the live exports.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely terrible.
And then the other ship that's stuck in the Suez Canal at the moment.
Like 3 months. I've seen that,
there's obviously more ships coming through with animals in that. And I just think that, you know, I just don't know what it's going to take for people to connect with the animals. That concerns me, that if you have heard what happens to them and you still, you know,
You've heard it and you've seen it.
And you're still deliberating, that worries me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So I think it will be
hanging on to the cliff edge. But
yeah, I think it'll be an environment that will sort of push people to become vegan rather than it being
out of their own selfish concern.
Yeah.
And if anybody's watching that isn't vegan on the environmental issues, Cowspiracy is worth watching, and the new one, Seaspiracy, which I haven't seen, but apparently it is like really hard.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So I recommend checking those out.
I think it's important to watch the videos and be as informed as possible. Like, I know I was reluctant to watch Dominion, but I'm so glad I did now, because I think we do have to be informed, and I think we have to know what's going on, and currently, not from 1975 or whatever. I think we'll have to know what's going on currently so that we can let people know and let people know the most up-to-date information. So
I feel like that is necessary viewing. Arguably in the place of education, you know, when you're a young student, you're participating in that. Well, isn't school all about learning about reality and how the world works? And, you know, just it's crazy.
Yeah. Was it Julie last week saying about going into the students, and she says they're very open to veganism, whereas maybe, you know, 10 years ago they weren't. Was she saying that last week about how much more open people are? And that's good. And but you still find a lot of resistance. And I think I just don't know what it'll take for people to, you know,
just keep plugging away the best that we can. And you said we're losing the battle. I don't think we are. We're winning the battle slowly. To never give up.
It's hard. All I hear from like farming people these days is how hard it is to carry on with farming. Farmers are also more aware these days of like animal rights and vegan campaigns, and so they're like gearing their PR and whatever else, you know, with that in mind. But it's I think we have to forever.
Yeah, I think we have to take back the word vegan and make it a positive. Positive
it's
word.
Always been a positive word for me.
I agree.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it has to be presented as a positive word rather than, you know, vegans are extreme and angry and all, because vegan to me means that you plant-based is the diet part. You know, we all eat a plant-based diet, but you know, a vegan is the lifestyle, and it's to me it's about the animals, and it's about, you know, it's about
caring. Your heart, really,
it's about caring for something other than yourself, and not just food and how you look and whether you can fit into a pair of jeans and you know all that sort of stuff. It's about really caring about the animals. And
what you're saying, it's one of those subjects that we could all ramble on and on and on about.
Sheena, we have two more questions. Where are we at? We're at an hour mark, so we'll crack on with the last two questions. So what do you think is the most effective type of activism?
Well, I love the cubes. I do. I love the cubes. I think they're brilliant. I think it's important, as I'm saying, you know, to let people know what's happening. I think they're highly effective. I still do think they're highly effective, but I think because of COVID, we do have to be looking at other ways. So I think really anything that isn't doing nothing. So even if it's, you know, standing outside a slaughterhouse, or, you know, campaigning in some way, writing letters, signing petitions, we did the animal aid, you know, stuff, getting into schools, talking to schools, that they can be done on Zoom. Things like your podcasts, Meet the Victims, Saves. I think they all have their place for different individuals. I think everybody with different personality types probably wants different things. I think just the most important thing is to not turn away, just don't do nothing. Yeah, just don't do nothing. Do something, even if it is responding to somebody on Facebook that you don't, you know, that they're maybe questioning veganism. reply to them and spread the message that way.
Nobody's ever done that on Facebook.
In a nice way, of course.
You seem to have a wee troll on the show tonight.
I don't know if you watch Rob Banks on Instagram.
Yes, Rob Banks is awesome.
Oh, I'm so inspired by him. He's great.
Who is it? Sorry, Rob Banks.
Yeah, he's
a
fur activist.
Yeah, he just like goes around and
based
posters everywhere. Yeah, is he New
He's
York?
good at like tracking celebrities and screaming them down and calling them fur hags.
It's more. I haven't seen that. It was more the he just has posters everywhere. He just posters everywhere, and he's good. So you can get out on your own. You don't have to have a crowd of people. But hopefully, I do miss the cubes. I have to say.
We all do.
I'm just curious about people viewing. So I just want to say, like, for anyone that doesn't know what a cube is, it's basically when you stand in a four-sided formation with screens and you show them standard legal slaughterhouse practice in a public setting with heavy footfall, and then people come and go and people stop and they look, and you engage in progressive conversation and ask them what they think about this and work through their defense mechanisms and try and help them come to a conclusion. Yeah, it's obviously this is ethically wrong and we have alternatives and we don't need to be doing this anymore. But I'm the same as you, Sheena. I love chatting to people, and cubes is just so effective because you have the visual aid. They're approaching you, and then you're just really having a chat about where they are with that. It's just so effective.
And I've been lucky to do cubes in New York and North Carolina as well as with you guys. And sorry, did I say Berlin?
I was going to say Germany. I remember you going to Germany.
And they were highly organized in Berlin, but again, only 4 people were out. And then when I was in North Carolina, highly organized, but maybe 4 to 6 people. So I just think it can be done in such a small group too. And I think just having that presence, I think the screens just make it effective.
Thomas said earlier, we went into town today to see how many people are about and figure out what we could get away with, because you know how the police are at the present time. So I just want to do something.
I know, but you are. I mean, this is you're putting a lot of effort into doing this and getting the word out veganism with this, and I just think that's important. And the other talks you do as well for your channels, and also all your writing as well, Cliff,
Yeah. Always at it, like almost daily. A good post writer, this guy.
You are. You're a very good writer,
sure.
You are.
You want to go with the last question?
Yeah.
Thanks very much, by the way. That's lovely of you to say that.
Really, really.
This is the last one, Sheena. We've kept you far too long, like we do with everyone.
What is next for Sheena Bleakney?
Oh, well, sleep. Tonight, no. Well, oh goodness, just with Sean, we're gonna be hopefully this year getting out more with speaking up for the animals, and we'll have a few things in mind. Have to get Mr. Organizer to, and we'd like to get out more, and then for the business, I'm working. I can't really say an awful lot about it at the moment, but I'm hopefully working on a big project with another event organizer. Hopefully it'll be something happening really soon, but keep an eye on the Truffleupagus page. And just going to be keeping on, telling the kids in school that they shouldn't be eating honey. And
yeah, that was something we didn't get to touch on, the dance and the drama. I know that's like a massive passion of yours.
Yeah, I haven't taught dance or drama in a year because of COVID, so I'm really just in schools 4 afternoons at the moment, just doing, making sure they stay in their bubbles. Really, it's not as inspiring as it used to be, but I love working with kids. I love that energy, that whole energy. And also yesterday we made little chicks and rabbits out of sugar paste fondant and put them onto I brought in vegan buttercream and decorated little biscuits. I think
I've seen pictures of that out there.
So I got them all eating vegan food and they all were loving it. So that's
seeds all over the place.
that's a plus, you know. So yeah, just keeping on and keeping hopefully as active as possible and training for this walk too. So
Yeah.
And just to remind people, the market tomorrow is in Antrim.
it's an Antrim
I know
one,
it's
Junction 1.
Junction 1. I think it's changed its name, but I'm not sure.
Well,
I think
it's
it
the
might
big-
just be I think it's the Junction now, but I stand to be corrected. Just a big
Okay.
shopping centre in Antrim, and drive up and you'll see Sheena and go and
Yeah.
try her food because it's amazing.
We've got hot pies tomorrow and gravy testing out for the
Nice.
first time.
Yeah,
so
plug it. Tell us what you got.
And the sandwich I had the last day was the best sandwich I've ever had in my
oh,
life.
the
So.
focaccia bread.
Your
Yeah,
food is amazing. Your food is genuinely amazing.
I have to get up at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning to bake that bread.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
jeez.
Right, well, we'll let you go. Thomas, wrap us up. And we'll let Sheena get to bed.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say that cashew cheese and spinach
The
pastry.
Spanaka Pete.
Yeah, that was so good.
Oh, thank you.
So if anyone's in the local vicinity, definitely go by and check out Sheena's food. It's really tasty. And you're choosing not to, you know what I mean, pay to take someone's life, and you're funding a vegan business, someone who's trying to actively do something good for animals. That's what I'll say about that. But yeah, I just want to say, like, to everybody watching, thanks so much. We don't see your faces and you see ours, but just know that it really means everything to us. We're trying to spread a message. We're trying to keep people like occupied and give people something of value during lockdown, and bring people together, people united, with similar values and everything. So yeah, it really makes a difference. Sheena,
well, thank you so much. Now, thank you. I was all embarrassed at the beginning, but it's been lovely talking.
You get into it.
You don't need to be embarrassed.
It's the most I've seen you in about a year, and I'll see you on Wednesday as well.
Oh yeah.
And you'll see me tomorrow.
You going in swimming, Thomas?
Yeah,
Thomas, are you going in swimming on Wednesday?
I don't know if I'm getting in the sea or not. I mean, I've been getting some cold water showers, but I don't know. We'll see what type of weather.
I don't know if you've been able to see the comments, Sheena, but
I can see them popping up there. Oh,
there's so much love for you. You'll be able to watch it back anyway. I haven't been able to show everybody's comments, but
thank you very much. Thank you very much now.
Sheena, I just want to personally thank you as well. You're an absolute legend, and
thank you.
It would probably be easier at the start to ask you what you haven't done rather than what you have done, because like
I still haven't cycled around Italy. That's on the bucket list as well.
That'd be cool.
Maybe next time.
Okay, so
listen, thank you.
Sheena, thank you so much, love.
Right, all the best.
There's loads of comments coming in. I'm not going to get time to put them up, but I just want to say to everybody that tuned in, thanks very much. And we will be back next week again at 7:30. And we'll have another guest up in the next couple of days, and you'll be able to see who it is. And have a good weekend, everybody.
I'll be tuning in. Haven't missed any yet.
Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah.
Talk to you again soon.
Adios.
Oh.
Here.
Yeah,
I'm still on. Hi, everybody. I'll do it.
It's all good. It's all good.